We're talking about cellular respiration. This is the chemical equation. And this is the balanced chemical equation. If we were to calculate the numbers of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen on both sides of this equation, we'd see that they are equal. This is a balanced equation. Okay? And what is happening here is the glucose that we consume in the food that we eat gets put into our bloodstream, and insulin from our pancreas gets dumped into the bloodstream, and it tells the cells surrounding the blood vessels, hey, there's glucose in the blood. Take it out. You need it. And so what the cells do is they actively transport that glucose into their cells. And that glucose hangs out in the cytoplasm. It will hang out in the cytoplasm until that cell needs energy. And that'll start the process of cellular respiration. Now, cellular respiration is a pretty complex set of reactions, but we're just going to look at this from this chemical equation. We're going to talk about reactants and where they come from, and we're going to talk about the products and where they go. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I'm talking about reactants, what side of the equation am I talking about? Right or left? Left. Perfect. Now, we've got reactants and products there. Yes, usable energy is the whole point of cellular respiration. It's why we do it. But I don't consider it a product in this equation simply because it doesn't have a chemical formula. It is a product. Okay? It is something that is produced, but I'm not underlining it as a product here just because it doesn't have a chemical structure. Okay? Now, let's look at where all of these things come from and what the body does with them once they're produced. So where do we get our carbohydrates from? Where do they come from? Food. They come from the food we eat. Okay? So these guys here come from our food. And actually, I'm going to do that in the same color. They come from the food we eat. Okay, where does the oxygen come from? It comes from the air we inhale. That's perfect. That's exactly right. Now, if we look at that, these two things interact, and it's a lot more complicated than them just mixing together. Okay? It really, really is. But at the end of the day, when we're looking at the chemical equation for cellular respiration, these are our reactants. Okay? Now, look at these products. Let's look at all three of these substances produced. What do we do with the carbon dioxide? We exhale it. It is toxic to us. We cannot keep it in our cells. As soon as the cells produce it, they must get rid of it. Okay? And that works the exact same way that diffusion works in the actual alveoli. There's a higher concentration of carbon dioxide after cellular respiration in the actual cell. It will diffuse to the blood cell that doesn't have any carbon dioxide. And that red blood cell will just keep on trucking towards the heart, and it'll then get pumped to the lungs to be exchanged. Okay? So all of this gas exchange, works on a diffusion basis. It costs us no energy, which when you think of it is pretty vital. Like it's pretty cool that happens. Because otherwise, breaking down food, absorbing the vast majority of the important nutrients that we need, getting oxygen and getting rid of carbon dioxide, if all of that took energy, we probably wouldn't live as long as we do. Okay, we probably wouldn't survive, and we probably wouldn't be as large as we are in terms of our physical structure. So when we look at water, okay, the water that's produced, the water vapor that's produced here, the small amounts of water that are produced, They do a variety of things. A lot of it does get exhaled as water vapor, but some of it is also used for chemical reactions within the body. Okay? And lastly, where does the energy we create through cellular respiration, what is it used for?
Move muscles.
It's used for day-to-day, and not only the movement of muscles, but some actual just absorption of nutrients actually takes energy. Okay, so it goes to absolutely everything that the body needs to dispense energy on. From movement to growth and development, the list goes on. So it goes towards day-to-day survival. Okay? So just to summarize, the whole point of the respiratory system is to do what? What is the point of the respiratory system? Looking at this equation, what is it? To what?
Bring oxygen.
To bring oxygen to where?
Your cells.
To your cells. To what organelle specifically? The mitochondria. Because that is the site of cellular respiration. That is what makes all the creatures on this planet, or the vast majority of them, plants and animals. Now, there are a few microbes that do not need oxygen. It's actually toxic to them. But the vast majority of other organisms, especially multicellular organisms, they undergo cellular respiration. Okay? Everybody does it. And everyone needs oxygen and needs to absorb oxygen in one way or another. So when you look at this image, air that comes in from the outside into our lungs, right from that moment on, our body is pretty good at specifically only taking what it needs from the air. So it's really good at taking only the oxygen out of the actual air. That goes into the red blood cells, which travel throughout the body and get absorbed. That oxygen gets absorbed by individual cells, and it goes straight to the actual mitochondria. And these oxygen molecules down here actually go into the mitochondria. And if you look in your iBook, you'll see that the inside of the mitochondria has this squiggly sort of membrane. That is the actual location that oxygen is used in this whole reaction of cellular respiration. So it's really, really interesting that oxygen, just the path that it actually travels to get to every mitochondria within each of your cells.